How's it, grade 12s? Today we're going on to geometric series. So basically we're just going to be adding up a geometric sequence. Okay. Now here's the derivation of the sum formula for the geometric series. We don't really need to know it. All I need you guys to know is this bottom formula over here. This is the sum formula for your geometric series. Okay. This formula will be given on the formula sheet, so you don't have to remember it off by heart. Now, some textbooks in that, they rather say r minus 1 at the bottom here and then rn minus 1 up at the top. I prefer it this way, 1 minus r, and you'll see later why when we get on to sum to infinity. Okay, so that's the formula that we're going to be using today. So if we look at the first example, find the sum of the series 16 minus 8 plus 4 minus 2 plus 1 minus a half. All right, so if I just write it out for you guys. So we've got 16 minus 8 plus 4 minus 2 plus 1 minus a half. We need to find the sum of this thing. Now, here comes a bit of the tricky thing. So if they're giving you a question like this, how do you know if it's an arithmetic or a geometric now? Well, for this one, it's giveaway, because what's happening is your signs are alternating. So you've got a positive, a negative, a positive, a negative, a positive, and a negative. The only way that can happen is if you're multiplying by a negative number. Okay, so it has to be a geometric. So in this case, if we take t2 divided by t1, we get minus a half. So we're multiplying by minus a half there. Then this one divided by this one, again, you're going to get minus a half. And this one here, you're also going to get minus a half. So it's definitely geometric, and it carries on. Okay, so if we write down our formula, Sn is equal to a 1 minus r to the n over 1 minus r. Okay, how many terms do we have here? That's n. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it is sum of 6 terms equals our a is 16. 1 minus our r is minus a half. Our n is 6. All over 1 minus, and our r is minus a half. You can substitute this onto your calculator, and we get the sum of 6 terms is equal to 21 over 2. Okay. If we look at example 2 now, the sum of the first n terms of the series 2 plus 4 plus 8 plus 16 plus so on is 2046. Determine n. Okay. So this is example 2. I just wanted to write it out. 2 plus 4 plus 8 plus 16 plus so on plus n equals 2046. Now, again, how do you know if this is a geometric or an arithmetic? Well, what you can do is you can just do your normal test for an arithmetic. So if we take this minus this, we get 2. If we take this one minus this one, we get 4. So you see, we're not getting that constant common difference, okay? Because the difference there was 2, the difference there was 4. So that fails. So it's definitely not arithmetic. But if we take this one divided by this one, we get 2. This one divided by this one, we get 2. This one divided by this one, we get 2. So therefore, it's a geometric because it's fitting with that common ratio. So what are we doing here? We're multiplying by 2, multiplying by 2, multiplying by 2. So that's an easy way to find out if it's an arithmetic or geometric. Then you can decide which formulas to use. Okay, so our sum formula for a geometric, Sn is equal to a 1 minus r to the n over 1 minus r. Now, how many, so also we know what our Sn is here. Our Sn is this 2046. So I'm going to substitute that in. And we're going to calculate how many of these things must we add up in order to get that total. So a is 2, 1 minus our common ratio is 2 to the power of n all over 1 minus 2. Okay, so grade 12. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to miss a couple of steps. First of all, 1 minus 2 is minus 1. I multiply that up, and that will give me negative 2046. Then I divide by 2, and I get negative 1023 equals, and what am I left with? Just this over here. So 1 minus 2 to the n. Okay, I'm going to take this minus 2 to the n to that side, and then the minus 1023 to that side. And we get 2 to the n is equal to 1024. Now this is going back to grade 9 work. You remember when you must get bases the same, so you need to prime factorize this number here, and we get 2 to the n is equal to 2 to the n is equal to 2 to the 10. Therefore, n is equal to 10. So we sum 10 terms there. Okay. Example 3. The first term of a geometric series is 2. So they've told us it's geometric, so we don't have to worry about any arithmetic stuff here. Is 2, and the last term is 128. And the sum of the series is 254. Question A, what is the constant ratio? Okay, so this one is a little bit involved, but it's okay, we will work through it slowly. So this is example 3. First of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the information that they told us. They told us that the first term is equal to 2. They told us that the last term, now I don't know what the last number is, so I'm just going to say Tn equals 128. And they told us the sum of these n terms is 254. So I've just written down the information that they've given us. Okay. Also remember that we've got our other formula for Tn. So Tn for a geometric is equal to a times r n minus 1. And we're going to use that for these ones. Okay. And so question A, we need to find out what the common ratio is. So let me work with this one here. So T1 is equal to 2. Straight away, I know that A is equal to 2. Okay. Let's work with this one over here. We know Tn is equal to 128. So that means that we're going to get this ARn minus 1. A times Rn minus 1 equals 128. Okay. But now I know what A is. A is 2. So if I substitute that in here, and then I can divide through by the 2. And we get 64. Okay. Now this is the bit of a problem, grade 12s, because you see here we have two unknowns. We've got an R and we have an N. And we don't have any other information from here to substitute in here to get rid of it. So I have no choice but to use this other bit of information over here. Okay. So I'm just going to skip a few lines because I'm going to come back to that. So Sn is equal to 254. And you guys have just learned what the sum formula is. It's A 1 minus r to the n over 1 minus r equals 254. Now again, we know what our A is. It's 2. So we get here 2, 1 minus r to the n over 1 minus r is equal to 254. And then I can divide through by the 2. And I get 1 minus r to the n over 1 minus r equals 254. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and manipulate this one here. This, if I split this is the same as saying r to the n times r to the minus 1 equals 64. Okay, I've just reversed one of your exponential laws, which is basically saying r to the n over r equals 64. And if I multiply up by r, I get r to the n is equal to 64r. Okay. And what I can see now is if I substitute this r to the n, which is that, for this r to the n over there, I've got the whole thing in terms of r. You see, because I can replace that r to the n to be 64r. 64r, and at the bottom I have an r. So I can solve for what r is there. So over here, I'm going to replace that r to the n to be 64r. So we get 1 minus 64r over 1 minus r equals, sorry, this is not 254, this is 127, because I divided by 2. Right, 127. I multiply up by 1 minus r, so we get 1 minus 64r is equal to, This multiplied by this gives us 127 minus 127r. Take the 127r to that side and the 1 to that side, and we get 63r is equal to 126. Divide by the 63 and we get r is equal to 2. Okay, and that's what they wanted. What is the common ratio? Okay, so question B. How many terms are in the series? Okay, so we know that Sn is equal to 254. Okay, our sum formula is A 1 minus r to the n over 1 minus r, and this is equal to 254. We know what our A is. Our A we know was 2, and our r we just calculated to be 2. So here we get 2, 1 minus 2 to the n over 1 minus 2 equals 254. Okay, so again, grade 12, so I'm just going to miss a few steps here. 1 minus 2 is minus 1, multiply that up there, gives us at minus 254. Divide that by 2, and we get this is equal to minus 127. Okay, and then on this side, we just left with 1 minus 2 to the n. I'm going to take this to that side, becomes a minus, so we get minus 128. Divide by the minus, and we get 2 to the n is equal to 128. Get your bases the same, so this is 2 to the n is equal to 2 to the 7. Therefore, n is equal to 7. So we summed 7 terms. Okay, grade 12. What I would like you to do for homework is exercise 1.6, numbers 1a to f, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1.7, number 3, D, E, G. Okay, thanks guys.